In Section 7, we talked about the process of forming a separate legal and financial entity. Of course, that's not the only consideration that you might have as a potential small business owner. Some industries may require special permissions or licenses. It's not that uncommon. For example, if you wanted to open that coffee shop or that restaurant, you're going to need to have somebody inspect the facility and license that facility to give you the permission to serve food to the public. There are a lot of different industries that require that type of permission. In the state of Kansas, there are some good resources that are available to help you do some research to find out what those permissions might be. As a KSBDC consultant, I have some knowledge and awareness of the industries and the permissions required, but frankly, we spend most of our time doing more strategic work, and so I work in 6 different counties and who knows, 20 or 25 different municipalities, and a lot of them have different regulations concerning permissions. For example, in the city of Lawrence, if you want to trim trees as your small business, you would have to be a licensed arborist. There are some cities up north in Atchison and Donovan counties where you're welcome to hang a shingle and be a tree trimmer without any kind of special municipal license to trim trees. So the best resource that I could give you, a one-stop shop where you can find out what kind of licenses and permissions are required for your business, is a group called Network Kansas. Network Kansas is located on the campus of Wichita State University, and they're an outstanding resource. I want to give you a telephone number for them. It's 877-521-8600. If you have any questions about licenses or permissions required for your business or industry, I'd urge you to give them a call. And all you have to do is say, hey, I'm thinking about starting a tree trimming business in El Dorado, Kansas. Can you tell me what kind of permissions I need? Chances are they may have to do some research and get back with you, but they're pretty darn good at that. There are a few other resources that I'd like to give you that sort of fall in this category. First thing I would tell you is that the state of Kansas actually has a really good website, www.kansas.gov. You can go to that website. You can actually form an LLC or a corporation if that's what you choose to do. You can register to be a collector and remitter of sales taxes. You can register to participate in the unemployment insurance program. A lot of things that you can do on that website in the privacy of your home, wearing nothing but a bathrobe and slippers if you so choose. Another resource that I want to give you is the IRS's website, www.irs.gov. Of course, this is the federal revenue collectors, if you will. The IRS website is a pretty important one to know. If you're going to form one of these separate entities, one of the things that you'll need is a Federal Employer Identification Number, FEIN. And so if you go to irs.gov and you type FEIN in the search bar, it'll bring up an online application that you can fill out. It takes about 10 minutes, and at the end of that you'll have this FEIN, which is basically like a social security number for your business. It's a unique taxpayer identification number. One other resource that I want to give you in the area of permissions and licenses is the Patent and Trademark Office. The web URL for that is www.uspto.gov. And the area of patents and trademarks is a really dense area. Again, I have to give you the disclaimer that I'm not an attorney. I've never passed a bar exam, and so I'm really not intending to give any kind of legal advice here. But in general, there are a lot of misunderstandings, I think, regarding intellectual property laws, trademarks, patents, anything like that. Just for example, I have people all the time that ask me, hey Will, what can I do to protect the name of my business? The answer is, really, it's very hard to be bulletproof in that area. Again, my name's Will, and if I wanted to start a business here in Lawrence, Kansas, and I wanted to call it Will's Kitchen Cabinets, well, I could do that. But how could I make sure that some guy in Madison, Wisconsin named Will couldn't also start a business called Will's Kitchen Cabinets? The answer is that it would be really difficult. I probably couldn't. In general, most of these laws have what they call channels of trade exceptions. And so in order for me to make the case that Will in Madison couldn't use the name Will's Kitchen Cabinets, I'd have to somehow make the case that customers could potentially be confused about which business was which. And so if I'm doing a few $1 million in kitchen cabinets in Lawrence and Topeka, Kansas City, maybe even as far away as Wichita, but Will in Madison, Wisconsin is doing his business exclusively in Wisconsin, it's going to be really hard for me to make that case. Channels of trade could relate to geographic locations. They could also relate to industries, which is why you might very well see McDonald's transmission repair, but you're not likely to see another restaurant that doesn't have the big golden arches that is called McDonald's. Anyway, in general, these channels of trade loopholes, I think, are a little bit misunderstood. I have people all the time that think it's probably easier to protect a name than it really is. If you live in Lawrence, you may recall when Home Depot came to town that they forced Old Home Depot to change their name. If you pay attention to the news, you probably see all kinds of stories about businesses that are using little swooshes or maybe little waves in their logo, but Nike doesn't like it when anybody uses anything like this, and Coca-Cola doesn't like it if you use a wave. Microsoft doesn't like it if the word Windows is anywhere in your product name. But let me just ask you a question. What is it that Microsoft, Nike, Coca-Cola, and Home Depot all have in common that most of us probably don't share with them? The answer is that they all have more money than God and the ability to hire attorneys to do endless amounts of work. And so they also have pretty recognizable brand names. And so they're able to probably get around those channels of trade loopholes in ways that most small businesses can't. The internet certainly has changed this set of intellectual property laws, and if you're doing a lot of internet sales, maybe that geographic channel of trade is something that you could overcome, but not always. Just realize that it may not be quite as easy to protect a name as you think it might be. A lot of intricacies to this law. Again, not being an attorney, I probably can't give you everything that there is to give you on that, but these are a few of the things that you might want to be aware of with regard to licenses, permissions, and other issues facing intellectual property in your small business.